Hello, I'd like to talk to you today about the process of editing academic books, because if you're thinking about editing an academic book, it's likely to be helpful if you have an idea of the process. The first step is to choose the publisher you want to work with. Find a publisher whose work you like, who publishes edited collections, and contact them, have a chat about your idea, find out if they've got anything similar in the pipeline. All publishers are friendly people and should welcome these kind of approaches. Then, when you've decided which publisher you want to work with, the first step is to ask for chapter proposals from people. So put out an open call, maybe put it out on social media or through your networks or both. Perhaps there are newsletters and things you can put it in to publicise it, to ask people to propose chapters for your book. When you have those chapter proposals, you can write the first draft of your own book proposal, which will include summaries of each chapter that you plan to include. There may be some chapters proposed that you don't plan to include, perhaps because they're very similar to other proposals or for other reasons. So you'll need to let the people who've sent you chapter proposals know what you decide about their proposal. Once your book proposal is done, including all the chapter proposals in draft, you need to get feedback on it from someone. So ask someone you trust, ideally someone who's already done some edited books, to give you feedback on your proposal. Then finalise it in the light of that feedback and send it to the publisher. The publisher may ask you for some revisions. If they do, then make those revisions. And then the proposal, when you're both happy with it, will go for peer review. This should only take a couple of months. It can take longer. When you get the reviewers' comments, you need to respond to those. That may require you to revise the proposal or write a statement about how you plan to respond. Remember, you don't have to do everything reviewers think you should do, because a reviewer may have the wrong end of the stick about something, may have misunderstood, or it may be out of scope. There may be any number of reasons. But if you're not going to do something that a reviewer has suggested, you need to say why, so that your publisher will understand. Once you have done all that to the publisher's satisfaction, they will then take your proposal to an internal committee in the publishers for its approval. At this stage, very rarely proposals get turned down by that committee, because the publisher that you're dealing with will know the business of the publisher, and so they won't put a proposal forward to that committee unless it's good enough to be approved. Once it's been approved, you will be issued with a draft contract by the publisher. You can negotiate on this, on things like the deadline. They might say, we want the book in 9 months, but you might think, no, it's going to take me a year. So you can say that to them and they'll change the deadline. If you're in the UK at this point, it would be worth joining the Society of Authors. They have people who vet publishing contracts and they can tell you what might be worth negotiating on and what might not. If you're in a different country, you may also be able to join the Society of Authors, or there may be a body or an organisation in your own country that fulfills a similar purpose. Or you may know a contract lawyer, or you may feel that you've got enough skills to look over your draft contract and make your own decisions. Once it's signed, you then do have a deadline, which you really do need to meet if you possibly can. And part of your work will be to support the chapter authors in writing the book as well as possible. The key here is to aim for a balance between consistency across the chapters and individual writers' freedom. So you might want to give a few guidelines, like, for example, make sure you take account of ethics in your chapter, make sure you don't go over 5,000 words, make sure you make links with theory and practice. But beyond that, let people write the way that they want to write. You will also have sections to write, maybe an introductory and a concluding chapter, maybe some section introductions, maybe some chapter framings, could be any number of things again. But you will have agreed all that with the publisher as part of your proposal. Once the manuscript is ready in draft and all the chapters and sections are all in one big document, you send that to the publisher, and again it goes for peer review. This time it'll take 2 or 3 months, maybe longer. Once you have the reviewers' comments, you need to revise your own chapters and sections in the light of the comments made about those, but you also need to support your authors in making their revisions in terms of what the reviewers have said about their draft chapters. And probably you will have also read and reviewed those draft chapters and made your own comments, so you can amalgamate your comments and the reviewers' comments to send on to each author in turn. Once all the revisions are made and you're happy and you've got everything together, there'll be various forms to fill in as well that the publisher will tell you about. Then you need to submit the revised manuscript and any other supporting documents to the publisher to go into production. But that doesn't mean you hand over the whole thing. The publisher will manage the production process. It takes a few months, but you will have work to do during that process, like responding to copy editors' queries, checking copy edits, checking proofs, possibly creating an index unless the publisher's agreed to take that on, or you might choose to outsource that and pay a professional indexer. So that takes a few months, and at the end of that, your book will be published and you can have a book launch, which is great fun, and I'll talk about that in a different video.